Hey, and we're back, and it's time for Tax Tips with Beth Bennett from H&R Block. And before we get started, folks, it is getting that time, crunch time. Taxes have to be done April, but there's also a lot of confusion out there. The state, you watch the media and the news, and the state says they've changed taxes and they've cut this, it changed that and gave a deduction here. The federal government says we've done this, that, and the other thing, and some of us are so confused, and that's why we call you Beth.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
Well, I will tell you, I don't want to say last year was not the year or the year before last, but if you ever needed a professional preparer, it's now.
It is now. The tax law changes actually don't take place until next year, but this is the year to plan for those changes, because what you're doing right now impacts next year's tax return, and we don't want to miss anything or leave something unchanged to have a negative impact on your tax return. Whether that means you get a smaller refund or owe more, either way, that's bad. And a lot of people make plans for their refunds, right? You know, they're planning to pay off a loan that they borrowed back in the fall that they could pay off with their refund, or take their vacation and then all of a sudden you get $1,000 less. That's huge to those people. Versus, you know, me, I just keep owing more every year. Well,
you may want that boat or that camper, right. But what we're saying here this morning is that every year you should prepare for your taxes, but this year is crucial. It's very, I don't like to use the word critical, just throwing it out there, but it's very important financially to you that you get information for preparing next year. The way you prepare this year can be very big for what comes out next year.
Absolutely.
And that's where you need the advice of, hey, you're taking this deduction now, well, next year what you'll need to do is X. Am I correct?
Correct, right. That's one of the biggest things I've been, and I feel like I've been pushing it this year, is so many people do their own returns, and that's okay, right? Lots of people do that. But this year, there are so many changes coming for next year that's going to impact you, and it just depends on your situation. You know, we could look very similar on the top, but then when you dig into it, all those tax law changes could impact us both very differently. And so, you know, one of the things, having a professional, and here's a lot of the comments that we hear about when we do a return that we haven't ever done. Somebody else has been doing it, they've been doing it themselves, they've been doing it online, or their aunt's been doing it at the kitchen table. Wow, you did that so fast. And that puts a lot of people off. Like, I paid that much for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, but what a lot of people don't understand is all of my tax professionals spend 50, 60 hours a year in doing continuing education in tax law and tax theory. So they know what those forms are, what those numbers are, can I use them, where to use them, right? So they're not digging around. If you're doing that return yourself online, you're digging through papers over and over because you don't know what that form is. What is a 1098-T? What is a 1098? A 1099-R. People don't know. Like a gentleman come in the office and said, I just have one W-2. My return's very simple. Well, what's 1099 retirement? That's a huge difference in a tax return. A lot more things go into that. So it's not based on do you have one piece of paper. There's tons of questions that our professionals ask you that dig deeper into your financial life to help you on your tax return. And so it does cost you more. I won't argue with that. We do charge more than what you'd pay to do it yourself online. But that's kind of the same as one of the analogies one of my preparers uses. I can make a tuna fish sandwich at home for $1 and instead of paying $6 at a restaurant, right? It's the same thing. It's the difference in the service that you get. So that's one of the big things. And our preparers are helping you prepare for next year. We're going over, like I said in our shows before, we got that new great tool that shows you how next year's tax laws will impact you if nothing changes. If everything stays the same, this will be the difference in your return next year. And that's great. And they go over that. And then they advise them on, okay, here's where you're going to be. You might lose $300 in your refund. What do you want to do with that? We help you plan on your W-4 to make sure you're having enough withholding. If you take money out of a 401k or going to buy a house or got a kid going to school, we help you plan for all those things so that you don't have a shock next year on your tax return.
You know I have ADD, so I can't get past the tuna fish sandwich. You did that on purpose. You know me well enough.
It's not even close to
right.
lunchtime.
I mean, okay.
Well, you
so
get up early.
Wait a minute. Though, let me say this, because I think we want to do anything we can to help Beth and H&R Block. Want to do anything they can, their tax preparers, to help take some of the confusion out of preparing your taxes. Because what you hear, and this is big with the new federal tax laws and state. You hear credit, a tax credit, doubling a tax credit, this child tax credit. We hear so much of that it gets confusing. So it's important, if they're in there and they say, well, I thought they doubled the tax credit, it's important that you know, hey, how old are your children? Because this one's coming off next year, and that will reflect X. I mean, those are the kind of things that really need cleared up, that they need to come in and sit down with your preparers.
Absolutely. The difference in your withholding. So, yes, they lowered the tax brackets that you're going to pay taxes on when you get to the tax return last year, but they're also withholding less in your paycheck. That may not be a wash for you. So you got it. There's just tons of little things in there that could really impact your tax return. So just got to be extra careful.
I want to also bring out obviously we're talking about individual tax returns and preparing them before April 17th.
April 17th is the deadline this year.
But I want to also bring up, you do small business taxes, corporate taxes. You do all the taxes, regardless of what your need is. And that if this year the small business plans to invest, open another store, put more employees on, you will be able to work with them on, hey, that amount of investment could show up here, or you could use it this way and that way. So I mean, just saying that, but those are other things that need to be discussed.
Absolutely. We can help any tax. There's not a tax return we can't do. I mean, we are tax professionals. That's all that we do. Our main focus is tax returns, so we can do any of them. We do lots of small businesses, corporations, partnerships, sole proprietors. So we take care of those, and we help those people plan as well. As you're making a decision about to buy a piece of equipment, how's that going to impact me? What should I do with it? How should I do that? Should I lease it? Should I buy it? There's lots of different things.
Give me at least two of the biggest, or the number one, two of the largest misunderstandings, confusion, or you know, that people bring to you when they're preparing their taxes. What are a couple of the biggies out there that are misunderstood? And
there's a huge list.
That's why I knew that. So
a big one that's always a huge shocker is when people take money out of their 401k. If you take money out of your 401k, your financial institution will just automatically take 10%, but that just covers your penalty. Now you got X number. Just say you took out $20,000. Okay, and you only had 10% taken out. You're under 55.5, so you pay that 10% penalty, plus whatever your federal and state tax is. And remember, if you just added $20,000 to your income, it probably bumped you up a tax bracket. So a lot of people are super shocked. I had taxes withheld, but just to cover that penalty, so it was a very small piece. So if you take money out of your 401k, usually you pay at least 40% of that back in taxes.
So you're paying the penalty
plus.
And if you're under what age?
55.5.
If you're under 55.5, then it's income, because it's
still income over 55.5. Just the penalty goes away.
The penalty goes away. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. But you're taking out income.
It might be 59.5. I don't do them. The girls do those. I have people. But yes.
Okay, we don't discuss age on this show. We do put some ages out there of things, but the full discussion we don't have.
Okay.
What are some of the things that we need to let people know this morning that you want to share with people with this deadline coming on April 17th before we close?
I just want to reiterate that you can still itemize this year. That did not go away. It's not going away next year. It might not benefit you as well, but it's still something to keep up with. Bring it in, have it on this year's tax return. You can still take your mortgage interest, just your PMI that came back on in February. That originally this year, that was one that had went away, one of the extenders that went away, but then they brought it back.
That's the mortgage insurance?
That's the mortgage insurance. That's huge. People pay a lot of money to that. So that's a big deal on the tax return. Don't forget your child care, education credits. Those are huge. You can get up to $2,500 education credit. That's one of my friends, I've been doing the return for years, and his wife said, did she do it wrong? We've never got that much before. But he started going to school this year. He's doing online college to be an engineer. And she's like, it must be wrong. We can't get that much. But they got a new credit this year, $2,500. So that's huge. Doesn't pay for all of your school, but it's another, helps out a little bit. The Savers Credit, always want to push the Savers Credit this time of the year because that's double dipping the IRS. And anytime you can give it back to the IRS, go ahead, because you can get up to, I believe it's 10% of your income back on your Savers Credit. And if you put it in a traditional IRA, that reduces your taxable income. So 2 tax credits on the same money. That's really a good deal. Really, really a good deal. You can still put money in there up until April 17th. That goes on this year's tax return. It'll go for 2017's return if you open a traditional IRA today or by April 17th and put it in there. That can still go on this year's tax returns. That's huge. Again, you're double dipping the IRS, and who doesn't want to do that?
Okay, now where do they find you? I mean, this is great information. Now they have to be able to get in touch with you, find you, know your hours, everything. So that's on you. Where are you at?
All right. So
where are you at, Beth?
Right here, Fetch Your News. So we have 3 locations here in LJ. We've got one at Highlands Crossing, at Craig Street, and on River Street in downtown. We are open every day, Sunday through Saturday. For our hours don't meet your needs, just give us a call. We'll be glad to accommodate. Come and see us. Remember, April 17th is the deadline. You got to file. Even if you file an extension, you can do an extension, but prefer you not. Remember, that means just an extension to file your return, but you're still supposed to pay what you think you will owe in taxes. So you could still be penalized if you don't pay and you have a large balance due.
Filing and paying your anticipated taxes, 2 different things.
Correct.
Correct.
You're supposed to pay your taxes as you earn your money.
Right. And what is, how did they get in touch with you? What's your phone number?
706-635-5563 or 706-635-5538 or 706-636-1099.
Just checking you. That's pretty good. I'm your host, BKP, and this has been Tax Tips with Beth Bennett from H&R Block. And also April 17th, don't forget, big day there. You have to have your taxes done. And they will accommodate you. They have office hours, but if you call and say, hey, I can't make it, they're doing everything they can to accommodate you and make appointments to get your taxes done. There's a lot of questions out there. This is the place to go to get answers on all of those new tax things in the tax reform from state to national. I'm your host, BKP, and we'll be back right after these messages.